Julia Schmidt. I am a sophomore at West Virginia University. I partook this fall semester in P2A, and my assignment was with the West Virginia Water Research Institute. So I'm here today to just kind of talk about my experience a little bit. It was super positive. Spoiler alert. So yeah, that's just like a brief introduction about me.
Hi everyone, I'm Amaya Hamilton. I'll be doing the majority of the presentation today. I am the water remediation specialist with WRI. I am a new person, new face in the office, so it's lovely to meet you all, and I probably will see you again at the next roundtable and in future events. So I think that's all. So anything else from Haley or Becca? Can I get started? Okay.
To get started, we will have a Q&A session at the end, so feel free to be thinking about questions throughout. You can drop them in the chat whenever you like. But yeah, look forward to that at the end. We will have a time for Q&A. Thanks, guys.
Okay. So this is our presentation for our new program, the Common Waters program, as a under 3RQ. So a little bit about the origins of Three Rivers Quest. It started in 2009 to address increased TDS in the Monongahela River. And through this, it identified mine drainage as a cause for the increased TDS. This created a model for mine pumping and treatment plants discharges to avoid exceeding the Safe Drinking Water Act. And as a result, the Monongahela River was removed from the EPA 303D list of impaired streams. So today, the Three Rivers Quest has expanded to include the Allegheny and Ohio rivers. WRI focuses on monthly monitoring along the Mon, and university partners, including Duquesne, takes care of the Allegheny, and West Liberty works in Ohio River. 3RQ incorporates academic institutions, community scientists, conservation groups to monitor several parameters along the three rivers. And this data is publicly available. The goal with 3RQ is to provide data that can be used to characterize water trends, water trends and water quality over time, as well as identify pollution sources. And we'd also like to note that the Colcom Foundation does the funding for 3RQ. So 3RQ resources are publicly available. Those who monitor for 3RQ can upload their data into the Waters database, which allows the data to be organized and uploaded into online interactive maps. The 3RQ mapping tool is an interactive map with several layers that can be viewed and hidden with several parameters that you can look through, and a lot of data year-wise to go through. This is helpful for viewing environmental data across state lines. The GAPS Assistance Program, it stands for Generating Awareness for Project Success. And it's a collaboration between Foundation for Pennsylvania's Watersheds and the 3RQ to assist watersheds and small colleges in carrying out real-world stream restoration projects. And then targeted studies, these are done by watershed groups reaching out to WRI with a unique project that might require additional sampling at a specific site or a new site, or sampling with different parameters. And 3RQ has funding set aside to support these types of projects. So more about Common Waters. Common Waters is a new program under 3RQ, and its goal is to provide assistance to watershed groups while allowing WVU students to participate in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math projects, also known as STEAM projects. This benefits the watershed groups by providing them with research and technical assistance, as well as benefits students by allowing them to apply their knowledge and skills to real-world environmental issues and giving them an opportunity to engage in their local watersheds and local communities. It's a good opportunity for students that have capstone courses or projects that require semester-long projects. So about watershed group participation, WRI will work with watershed groups and similar environmental nonprofits within West Virginia and Pennsylvania areas, and will pair students to watershed groups requesting assistance for creative ventures, collection and analysis of water quality data, evaluation of erosion and sedimentation, any sort of GIS work, research topics and literature, preparation of newsletters, infographics, or social media posts. So any sort of outreach with that and restoration planning. And this is just like a kind of general list. Depending on what each watershed group's needs, this can definitely be expanded on for any sort of needs that are required. And so teaming up with watershed groups, we have certain goals that the watershed groups will take care of and certain goals and I guess requirements that Common Waters will take care of. So watershed groups, we hope that they can meet students several times during the semester to ensure that their project is progressing in a way that the watershed group had been looking for. So these meetings don't have to be in person, they can be remote, especially since students can be limited with traveling. So remote is a good option, whether it's Zoom meetings or Google Teams. They also should be providing students with background information, data, any sort of files to students so that they can have adequate resources for the project, as well as offer feedback and help students grade work with WRI at the end of the semester, since this project is counting towards a semester grade for the students. And Common Waters will serve in communication between watershed groups and then students and their professors, as well as providing project ideas based on what the watershed group's needs are. We also will be providing supplies and travel, funding for supplies and travel to support students' projects, as well as providing technical assistance for students, such as using the water quality database, mapping tools, and specific equipment and technology. Common Waters will also organize a symposium at the end of the semester to bring together WVU students and the watershed groups to show off and celebrate the students' work. So watershed groups can get involved in by reaching out to either Rachel or myself, having a project idea, and we can help find students and classes that might be suitable to take on the project. And we encourage all types of project ideas, especially for groups that have had a goal in mind and maybe were unsure of how to reach that goal or didn't have the resources necessary. Similarly, there will be courses and students who are in contact with us with their own project ideas and specifications, and we'll be reaching out to watershed groups that we believe would be interested in the goal of the project and could partner with the students to create a valuable product for their organization. It is worth noting that not all students will be able to travel to sites for in-person work, either due to distance or time commitments or access to vehicles. So some students may need to work fully remotely. So those students would not be best suited for data collection type of work. And then Julia, if you could take your part then.
Of course. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about a couple ways that students could get involved. So I did it obviously through the P2A program. And then this was my assignment that I chose at the beginning of the semester. And you can also get involved, students can get involved through research programs, either the SHORE program or the research apprenticeship program, and those can be completed in conjunction with the WRI. And you can also do something like volunteering. I know that this can be particularly attractive to sororities who are trying to get like service hours and are looking for a way to get involved with the community. It's just more of like a short-term type of thing. But yeah, there are a ton of ways that students on campus can get involved with WRI. And so there I am at my desk in that little picture. So my experience with WRI has been educational and enjoyable. When I first came, I definitely was a little bit nervous because I had never really been in a professional office setting before and I didn't have a ton of experience, but the staff that I met was super warm, inviting, and patient. I'm a full-time student with 15 credits this past semester, and everyone was very understandable with my busy class schedule, and I'm also in a ton of outside organizations in a sorority, SGA, so they were very understanding that I had a lot going on and they were going to make time for that. I was given a lot of grace to educate myself on these pressing issues and their like ethical practices. So that was super, super nice because I didn't have a lot of experience or knowledge. So I was always given time to figure that out for myself. I mainly worked on like social media content, and that was super interesting and boosting that sort of thing. I'm not really on social media a ton, so it was interesting to learn about that. This information feels super relevant. Obviously, I'm a political science major, so I care a lot about the environment, and it was just interesting to learn about how like collective action was happening in West Virginia. Yeah, thank you. Oh,
Was
is
that
this
Julie?
mine? No, okay. You,
Yeah, no,
I can do it. Yeah.
it's back to me. Thank you for that.
Okay.
So back to how students can get involved. Once again, emailing myself or Rachel. Also, signing up for the River runs through this newsletter. Hopefully, Rachel will be dropping that in the chat, the link to that. This newsletter will be covering news with Common Waters as well as showing off student projects as they're completed. We also have a Facebook that's been up and running for a while, West Virginia Water Research Institute, and a newly launched Instagram page, WRI_WVU. So definitely check that out for updates regarding Common Waters. And then I just wanted to highlight a few projects that have been related to Common Waters. This one was by Haley Paul, and it is these are posters about acid mine drainage in the Buchanan River for the Buchanan River Watershed Association. So this utilized information from the organization's 2023 newsletter, and it displays facts about acid mine drainage in the Buchanan River, treatment systems within the watershed, events hosted by the organization, and collaborations between the organizations and their partners. And this was used to educate people on acid mine drainage and spread awareness of the Buchanan River Watershed Association's work. And then this one, I won't speak too much about it because Sarah Nelson will be presenting this at a later roundtable. But this was a story map called the Houston Ball Field Erosion Study, and it was with the Upper Chartier Creek Watershed Association, and it was looking at an eroding stream bank within the Houston Ball Field. And we'd also like to note that this was a GAPS project, so this organization applied for assistantship, and they were able to conduct this erosion study by utilizing the 3RQ GAPS project. And that's all. We are going to enter a roundtable discussion. So this kind of is sectioned off. So I have a few questions that I'd like to pose, and hopefully people will be interested in sharing or asking questions or just anything you want to say about these topics, really, and I hope that we can build off of each other. So starting off, just covering a little bit about 3RQ and waters. We're interested in how your organization currently utilizes Three Rivers Quest and waters. And if not currently, what are some ways your organization would like to see that this is improved so that you can participate? So yeah, if that has inspired anyone. And also just to note, if you have something that we don't get to, or you think about something later on, we will be sending a follow-up survey, likely later today or tomorrow. So you could complete that whenever you see fit. It'll probably be short, like 5-ish questions, just to get some additional information so that we can adjust the Three Rivers Quest and other programs going forward to suit the needs of everyone's organizations.
It might be helpful to have a round of introductions or introduce yourself in the chat if you don't feel like unmuting yourself. I think we have a lot of people who are in similar organizations to 3RQ where they're assisting watershed groups. I don't think we have a lot of direct watershed groups in the room right now. So if anyone would like to introduce themselves, or feel free to put it in the chat, I think it'll help our discussion. I'll call on John Dedish to start. He's going to be talking a little bit later.
Hi, I'm John Dedish. So I'm wear, in a sense, two hats. I'm with the Harry Enstrom chapter of the Isaac Walton League. We have been involved with 3RQ for a number of years, and maybe actually since it started. And as we collect data primarily in Greene County, so we have a long history, and we've had our starts and stops with 3RQ. And I think, what I just heard is fantastic. And I guess the big question I would have is there an effort to move this with other colleges in the area? I know we had West Liberty, but along with that, we have Waynesburg, KU, and so forth. But so like I said, I'm very thankful for 3RQ. I think you have a great deal of data, and I'm a little disappointed that you don't see a lot of people using it. And I think that's one of the things that we all need to do is make an effort to get more people aware of the resources that we have. But thank you very much.
Oh, I guess I'll call on people. Jess, would you like to introduce yourself, or if you have something you wanted to say about Amaya's first question?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Jessica Bryzik, and right now I am an AmeriCorps Vista, and I've been working with the Buchanan River Watershed Association for the past 2 years. And we were so excited that the student was able to rework our newsletter and design that beautiful graphic. I think that was really like being able to communicate what these watershed groups are doing in a very like visually appealing way is a big need of watershed groups. So we were super excited to have that project done. And I think one thing that Rachel and I have actually talked about is the potential for this Common Waters program to help raise awareness of the connectivity between all the different watershed groups across the region. And being based in Morgantown, that's the downstream community of a lot of the work that these watershed groups are doing. So it's almost like, Morgantown is receiving the benefits of all these efforts that the watershed groups are, putting their time and energy into. And it would be really cool to have a way for that Morgantown community to become more aware of what's going on up in the headwaters. And also, a dream if they could somehow be like grateful for the work that is doing. A lot of these watershed groups are recognized in their local communities, but as they're restoring the water in their community, that water flows downstream and their efforts are going downstream with it as that water becomes more clear. So I hope that's one of my hopes for this Common Waters program is to be able to build recognition for the connectivity of all of our waterways in this region.
Thanks, Jess. And something else we're thinking of is that a lot of the students are also from various parts of West Virginia. So they might come here for a wildlife and fisheries degree, but have no idea what's going on back in their home watershed. They might not know. They might be part of the Buchanan River watershed, but not know that BRWA is out there. So part of the hope of this program is to raise more awareness that watershed groups and other similar environmental groups are out there and that they need help. So they need younger people involved, they need volunteers. And our hope is through this program, the students have a good experience getting involved and want to continue that, maybe spread the word and just get more younger people involved. Thanks. I think a few people introduced themselves in the chat. So if there's anyone else who wants to kick us off, or I'll let Amaya continue on with her questions.
Okay, I will continue on. So these are some loaded questions I realized, so I'm gonna type them in the chat afterwards to keep them fresh in everyone's mind. So the next bit is specifically looking at common waters and how we can improve it in the future and just get more people involved. So we're wondering what are the current focuses of projects within your organization or organizations that you work with? Are they acid mine drainage related, fecal coliform, recreation access related? And what support does your organization currently need to complete successful projects or proposal? And that can include technical assistance, help with data collection and analysis, or not knowing what to do with data or products of these projects.
I really hate silence. I can think where I would really love to see your help is in two watersheds. One is the current effort to get a stream redesignated to actually have it downgraded. And one of the big problems we have is it really hasn't been looked at in 30 years. And it's just in a place where I don't have anybody who wants to look at it. Another one is a stream that they've had a lot of problems, and the watershed groups have become disheartened. So hopefully, some young new ideas could come and help with that. And a third is just possibly a stream assessment. But to answer your question, boy, I can give you AMD, I can give you fracking, I can give you recreation. We have a multitude of things that we could use your help on and uh, help the communities get involved. I think, and one of the things that I find that I think is really great about your program is that my experience is that when we talk to watershed groups, you're dealing with an older group of people. And to have you come in as and if I may say, the future generation, I think will revitalize groups. And I also hope that, once these people, your students graduate, they will continue on, because there again, we find that big problem as people get into that middle age and start having families, they migrate away from this. And yet I would hope that, what you're doing now, you can demonstrate that there's just a lot of fun getting out into a stream and doing things. This is not work. This is actually, it should be fun, but you have a real serious part of what you're doing.
Yeah, we'll chime in as well. John Stephen, strategic coordinator for the Headwaters to the Ohio Water Network, and just there are a lot of project ideas that John has touched on. Cover the gamut. But one thing that maybe I'd be interested in thinking about is the sort of the arts or visual. I love the poster you created for Buckhannon, and one thing we've heard a lot about is people who just want to raise the profile of their water resource, whether it's through a water trail or people who just want to identify sources of trash. Get people to think about how we need to highlight the pristine streams that are an asset. So I wonder if there's a way to involve some of the arts community to create some video production or something that could help these groups promote their water asset to their community and a little bit to the constituency.
I think one thing that, like that poster really did for the Buchanan River group is it helps make these projects that groups are working on come alive. It helps people connect with them in new ways. Most of the time, the watershed groups are really focused on just getting the project accomplished, and they don't have enough capacity or skills to work on like that messaging as to why this project is important. And yeah, just going back to the importance of having those graphics to be able to convey the message of what this project is actually doing is really important. And I think an area where the youth can specialize and be able to create those really informative graphics. And I learned something last night in our Buchanan River meeting. The Buchanan River and a lot of the rivers in these regions flow north. And in our board meeting, I was like, does everybody know like our Buchanan River flows north? And not everybody did, so even if you are putting together like a map and you're showing, a lot of the projects that the Buchanan River group does is upstream of the city of Buchanan. So it's upstream of their drinking water intake area. But just like a map itself doesn't necessarily convey that, because people might not, it's not intuitive, to read a map from south to north unless you know that the Buchanan River flows north. So I think that that's one area that students can help contribute with their very informative graphics, is being able to use them to help tell a story as to why these projects are important and how to just make them come alive.
Hi, I'm Casey Osborne. I am with Downstream Strategies based here in Morgantown. We do a lot of different projects, but we do a lot of watershed and water monitoring type projects. But I just wanted to agree with what everyone's saying here. We do a lot of public facing reports, and I know one of the pitfalls for some of these groups is just the, I guess, lack of refinement or accessibility in what they put out or how they present themselves, which can make it maybe a little bit harder to find that information, to really absorb that information, or to really be inviting, I guess, to maybe onlookers. As I said in my little introduction, I'm working on a watershed group needs assessment. So I'm looking up all these different watershed groups. And something that I'm finding a lot is that they either have no online presence at all, or if they do, a lot of them are, looks like they were, came from the 90s with no real, it's not modernized. So that can be kind of off-putting to maybe some young people that want to get involved. Or it makes me wonder whether they're active at all. So I think, employing the help of students who know how to make information accessible, infographics, like you're saying, or just clean, clear language that is easily digestible. You get right to the point. I think that's super important, especially for some of these watershed groups that are probably, they might have I guess on average, a higher age that might not be, fluent in those types of technologies. So I think that's very important.
One idea I've had that I think the Water Research Institute could really help out with is a lot of people don't understand like the scale that these like acid mine drainage projects occur at. And they also don't really understand like how much money and how much time it takes to build these projects. And the Water Research Institute is involved in a lot of the acid mine drainage projects in the region. And it would be so cool to have like a student work on quantifying those metrics. Like on average, an acid mine drainage treatment is the size of a football field, you know, not really using numbers to convey the length, but using like a metaphor to just help convey how difficult it is to get the money and have the time, and also, you know, the land area that is needed to build one of these treatment systems. So kind of going back to what Casey is saying is just developing like that, the messaging that is important to like, you know, convey what these projects are actually looking like in real time.
I think these are a lot of good points, especially about outreach, which I think I wasn't personally thinking about just how much I think organizations could benefit from, I guess, the younger generation having making things more accessible, as well as reaching new audiences. So this is really good feedback to hear. And building on that, we're curious as to how familiar organizations are with working with student groups, and what those successful partnerships are like. Sorry, whether it's what made them successful or what can improve the partnerships. So I'm gonna drop that in the chat.
So as mentioned, I think that a lot of the watershed groups, you know, have limited capacity to supervise a student intern and, you know, provide like the mentorship that's needed for a successful relationship and development of the student. So BRWA is partnering right now with the WVU Center of Resilient Communities student intern group. And that seems like it's going to be a great partnership because, you know, they set the curriculum of what the student is receiving outside of like the research project. So making sure that these students have a point of contact that's beyond the Watershed Association, I think is really important, just because these watershed volunteers will have like limited capacity to supervise the student. So I think that's one way to make it a successful partnership. And also it's really important to be able to get the students to the watershed people. So accounting for like travel and having a budget that actually allows them to go and like be in person with these local folks, I think is really important.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking about, you know, my history of work is really in Allegheny County. And I know, you know, there are examples of very successful watershed students partnerships that have evolved into really exciting projects up this way, like a 9 Mile Run and upstream Pittsburgh. A lot of their staff started work as student projects, either through Carnegie Mellon or Pitt. And there are other examples, and I'm sure there are a lot through the basin. It makes me think, you know, how can we make sure that these successes get further and further throughout the whole Upper Ohio Basin? I know the Water Research Institute does work up this way, and if there's a way we can sort of encourage other universities to think about developing these types of watershed relationships. But that's probably me working on mission creep again. But I love this program, and I know there's some examples in the Pittsburgh area, and got to make sure we continue to support these efforts throughout the Upper Ohio River Basin.
Thanks, John. That brought up something that I don't think we clarified. So 3RQ is within the entire Ohio River Basin. As Amaya mentioned, we partner with Duquesne University and West Liberty University. And the goal of this program, this Common Waters Initiative, is to be within that basin. So the students from WVU, especially if it's an online project, they can work on projects that are more in the Pittsburgh region or even further south in West Virginia, like the Buchanan. So we're pretty open, but it does need to be flexible with remote work. And as I mentioned, we can also connect students from Duquesne University and West Liberty University.
It kind of makes me think back to that outreach and messaging and visualization. If we can, people from West Virginia can create story maps about a watershed. If they're given good information by the volunteer watershed groups, they could pull it together and make it visual. And so, yeah, that's great that make sure we think about this across the whole Upper Ohio Basin and get a lot of story maps created.
All right, so I think we will move on to the final set of questions that we're curious about, and that is related to our GAPS program, the Generating Awareness for Project Success. So if you saw the previous GAPS announcement, we're curious if there were any barriers to applying or hesitations that led you, or maybe you thought other organizations, to not apply to the GAPS program, because we're looking to have a little bit some more applications in the future. So perhaps we're interested in GAPS maybe not addressing the needs for your organization, or maybe it's because your organization didn't have the capacity to apply or carry out a new project. So we're interested in sort of understanding what the needs of different organizations are, whether it's sampling, planning, data collection, data analysis, and communication, any of those, so that we can in the future kind of prioritize and plan around those. So I'll write that in the chat then.
I think there might be some people on here who aren't familiar with our GAPS program. We're in our second year of it, and it was created to assist watershed groups and small colleges and universities with data collection that would lead to remediation projects. So we work a lot with groups with acid mine drainage treatment, and one thing that we noticed was that it can be difficult to find the funds or the time to collect the data that you need to know what projects to apply for. And really just have a stronger proposal. So that's what was in mind with the GAPS program, was really supporting the data collection, either by funds or by direct technical assistance. We have a field team that can go out and help groups collect samples, or in the Chartiers Houston ball field erosion study, we set up erosion pens, and then their volunteers monitored them. So I just wanted to give a little more background on what the GAPS program is. And like Amaya said, we're just looking for a little bit of feedback to shape our next year of the program. So I think the last part of Amaya's question is the most helpful. Whether the group that you work with is needing assistance with data collection, setting up a sampling program, or analyzing and interpreting and sharing that data.
Hi, Rachel. This is Laurie Maglietta. I am a member of the Washington County Watershed Alliance, and we recently were donated a flow meter, professional, and we are wondering if any of the students, and this would not be remote though, would be able to be trained in monthly monitoring a stream using this flow meter. I mean, we can provide the training, but would this be an opportunity where one of the students could do that as a monthly task? It would
Yeah,
be in Washington County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think that's a great project idea. Is it just one site that you're looking to have the flow
We
collected every
specifically
month?
have, yeah, we have a site in mind. If there were additional sites that we could identify, and if you had the student power, that would be great too.
Is there a I'm just trying to understand more of the background on this. Would the flow measurements need to be done on the same day that you're collecting samples, or are there time restraints for this?
No, we would just like to have a once a month data collection.
Okay, yeah, we can connect about that afterwards. That sounds like
Okay.
a nice small project for a student, very doable.
Oh, great. Thank you. Do you have my contact information?
I don't. If you don't mind
Put it
either
in the
putting in the
chat.
chat, or I can put mine. I'll put mine.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lori.
I know you present this in your newsletter, but I would like also, if I can task as a visitor, Rachel, love to see, love to have us put this on the Water Network's website so that we can reach maybe some people who are not part of your newsletter, because I think it's a fantastic program, and we may be able to reach some more people with this program. So if you can give us some information we can put on the Water Network website, that'd be fantastic.
We would love to. We'll actually have a report from this year one of the Common Waters program coming out later this week, hopefully. So we can share that, and I think you were talking specifically about the Common Waters program, but I also did put the link in the chat for Rivers Run Through This, because I know you also mentioned that. So that should have the link for signing up with the newsletter.
Yeah, well, I think all the work that you're doing is great. So please use the network to expand your audience in whatever way you see fit.
Thanks, John, and we hope to do the same for the network too. I know I've been slacking with posting things in your base camp. Amaya, were there any other questions you wanted to make sure we asked? If not, I can turn things over to John to speak for a few minutes about their new effort.
No, that's about everything from my end. And like I said before, we'll be sending out a questionnaire probably today or tomorrow, that are pretty much going to be the same questions, but hopefully if anyone here has, I guess, thoughts between now and then that they'd like to offer in that survey that will help us better plan for the future with the GAPS program, 3RQ, waters, common waters, all of that. So that'll be greatly appreciated, and please keep an eye out for that.
Thanks, Amaya. Yeah, to just recap everything we talked about, we have a lot of different opportunities for students to get involved. We're really trying to get integrated into capstone courses and more formal arrangements, but this is the first year of the program, so some of those are up in the air right now. But we will have opportunities similar to what Julia experienced with individual students placed with us. So if you send us project ideas, we will do our best to connect a student with you or a group of students. And thank you for bearing with us as we get this new program rolled out, and really thankful for your feedback. So I thought that this would be a great time to introduce John Dedish to speak about an effort that he and the Headwaters to the Ohio Network are leading right now to complete a more detailed assessment of watershed group needs. So this really goes into a deep dive on really a lot of details about water monitoring. And the results from that effort I'm really excited for. I think they'll be really helpful to the entire region. So John, if you wanted to speak about that.
Okay, well, thank you very much. But if I can start in a sense in the beginning and put in a little bit of an advertisement here. As I said, I'm with the Isaac Walton League. I'm the president of the Pennsylvania division of Isaac Walton, and I'm also on the board of the Headwaters to the Ohio. The Isaac Walton League mission is to conserve, restore, and promote the sustainable use and enjoyment of our natural resources. That includes soil, air, woods, water, and wildlife. The Headwaters to the Ohio Water Network is a coalition of organizations working to improve water quality and access to the upper Ohio River Basin. Our mission is to promote sustainable water management practices and ensure that everyone in the region has access to clean, safe, affordable water. So as you see, those two missions come together primarily over water. And for the Isaac Walton League, having being part of this network is extremely, extremely important. And I think one of the things that really came home to me was a few years ago, I had the opportunity to meet with a number of legislators on a couple of environmental issues. And this was the first time that I had the opportunity to do this. And so the group allowed me to go first. And I introduced myself and I said, I represent 1,600 Isaac Walton members in Pennsylvania. Well, right after my introduction came a young lady from Trout Unlimited. And she introduced herself and she said, and I represent 20,000 members in Pennsylvania. So I did two things. One is I asked not to go first again. And the second was I recognized that my voice was just increased by 20 times. So being part of a network allows us to increase our voice. And I think very much that is what I heard here today. It's an opportunity to bring people together and to help improve what a lot of people are trying to do to improve their watersheds. So again, I would thank you very much. And I would ask you, if you're not part of the Ohio River Water Network, please take a look at the website and join us and be part of the partnership. It's a resource. It's for you to find people who are working with you, to find people who are able to ask questions. I was just heard about, the monitoring. How do we get some training? Hopefully, we connect people to provide answers and to ask questions. One of the projects that we've just started, and we kind of have the whole group here in a sense, we're working with Downstream Strategies to take a look at a section of the watershed of the Ohio River Basin watershed, and to see what's going on there and hopefully create some data that we then can go out and legitimately develop programs to try to answer the questions that you have so many resources to deal with. So, one of the things is we're going to be looking at capacity. And I think that's one of the things, as was talked about here. You find watersheds that have 20 or 100 people. You also have watersheds that have 6 people. You have watersheds who unfortunately have a lot of desire, but they just really don't have the age to go out and turn over rocks anymore. Leadership is a big question. In so many cases, you have this organization was developed on a vision of one person. And as long as that one person is motivated, that group is going to be there. But everyone else is kind of a follower. So so trying to develop that. The goals, and this changes a lot. It can be the clean water, it can be safe drinking water, it can be both, it can be recreation. But generally there's an issue. And unfortunately, sometimes once that issue is either corrected or it becomes non-attainable, the watershed goes away. So that I am dealing with an AMD site over here, and no one wants to work with me, so that watershed group goes away. So it's trying to develop a sense of what is the goal and to try to keep people interested in what's going on. And then it becomes a question of the structure of the organization. Is it really sustainable? And again, you take a look at the age of the people and the skill levels. Again, it becomes a question of, do I know how to operate the equipment that I have? I've talked to one watershed. They said, we have some fantastic equipment. It is great. We had a college professor sit down with us, tell us what we could get. He's no longer involved, and we have no idea how to use this equipment. We collect data, but we don't know what to do with the data. We don't know what we know that, okay, when I go out and read my meter, it says my pH is 7.7, but what does that mean? So we really need to develop a good training program and develop those skills that are necessary for those people to continue to function. And I heard today communication, both within the group and outside the group. I think one of the big problems that you see is that you'll get this group that comes together for a common issue. And hopefully, if they do it well, they've got community input. But too often you get those people who are very dedicated and they do not, their goal is to correct this problem. And what they end up doing is alienating the community. So to me, that part of communications is extremely important. So to be successful, you really need to have community buy-in, whether it be, as I think I saw something here, the Boy Scouts or a church group or whatever, but you cannot do it on your own. Again, you're going to, over time, you're going to lose people, but along with that, you also have the opportunity to alienate the community that you're trying to help. Funding is a big problem. And, I think we find, groups that are well-funded. They have people who they're paying an executive director and staff. You also have other people who have been a volunteer organization such as the Isaac Walton Lake. We've been doing this since the 40s, and we don't have any paid staff. It's all volunteer. So it really depends on what you're doing And then the question of, you know, what I want to do I have the funds to do it? And so trying to bring those two together. Information sharing. And again, I heard this today. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, we go out and we collect data, but we don't know what to do with it. So it goes into a book, and that's as far as it goes. So, and unfortunately, in many cases, the watershed group becomes more of a social meeting, and that, oh, we come together and we meet for once a month, and we sit and we talk, we complain about the situation. We go out and we collect our data and we put it in the book. Well, we need to work together to try to figure what to do with that data. And then does the watershed know what to do with the data? And then that group that other watershed that's next to them, or do they have access to that data? So that part of communication is very important. The other thing is we talk about water monitoring. So, but the question is, why am I looking at this stream? Am I looking at it because I have AMD issues, because I have fracking issues, because I have a lot of agriculture, a lot of cattle and pigs along the stream? And am I using the right tools? Am I looking at the right places? Am I looking at stream banks? We just dealing with a situation where we have collapsed stream banks. Well, but we haven't been looking at that. We've been looking at TDS. Well, the also problem we have is aluminum in there. Well, when you sit there and ask the questions, we find that we have long wall mining, and within that area, we have 12 streams that have had problems with stream bank deterioration. But no one has really put those two together because we aren't looking at the banks, we're not looking at the trees and so forth around us. So it really becomes a big part of that education that we need to look at. And I
Hey,
think
John.
the last part.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. A lot of good stuff here, but for the sake of time, I wanted to make sure you got the information that you wanted to get out about the survey.
Yeah. Okay, very quickly. So if we would really like to know what watersheds are out there, and along with that, those people that are working on streams. So it's not just watershed groups, but if you're stocking trout, if you have an organization that you're out kayaking and so forth, we want to know about that. And then that helps us to then come and talk to you and see how you can get involved in taking care of those streams. So that's the sum of what we're doing here. And like I said, once we have this assessment done, then we hope to develop a program to really meet the needs of what we're seeing. Thank you.
Thanks so much, John.
Yes, and thanks everyone today for those incredible insights, this really important conversation, and I can't wait to see what we do with it. Again, this was the first of 3 meetings. We're going to have our next one on January 16th. Either today or tomorrow, soon you're going to get a follow-up email reminding you of the days that these next 2 meetings will be occurring for this series. We also have our WRI seminar series that's happening on the first Thursday of the next 2 months. So 2 more of those as well. But yeah, we'll have all that information put into an email. So just keep an eye on your inbox. And yeah, with that, I think that's all we have. As Amaya mentioned earlier, please do make sure to fill out any survey information that you receive so they can gather that data to make sure that these meetings continue to be successful. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We promise
Thank
not to grill you with questions during the next 2. Thanks for your feedback.